Welcome back to Dyknow's Tech Coach Corner YouTube series. I'm Tiara Lustig, your host, and today we are joined by Dr. Sean Coffron from Manassas City Public Schools. Sean has some really creative ways that he's been using Zoom in his district to bring the remote classroom to life and bring aspects of the traditional classroom into the remote setting. So we have a really great conversation about Zoom, using it for video conferencing, and then talking about those creative ways that Sean is using it in his district. Sean also wanted me to plug his communication channels, so if you'd like to learn more from him, please go follow him on Twitter, engage with him there. You can find him at Sean Coffron, or feel free to email him. His email is scoffron@mcpsva.org, and we will put that in the description as well as in the video so you can easily access that. Before we jump in, just want to remind everyone to subscribe to Dyknow's YouTube channel, turn on push notifications, and don't forget to follow us on all of our social channels. I'm really excited for this conversation, so let's get right into it. Welcome back to Tech Coach Corner, everyone. I'm Tiara Lustig, your host, and today I'm joined by Sean Coffron. Sean, would you want to give a brief introduction to yourself before we get started?
Sure. My name is Sean Coffron. I've been in education for 20 years. I've served as a teacher, administrator, and more recently as a technology coach at Metz Middle School in Manassas City Public Schools, Virginia. And one of the things that I'm very interested in learning more about is how to promote teacher self-efficacy through professional learning, and also how to improve student engagement, not using technology to replace effective strategies in the classroom, but to enhance the learning environment overall and focusing on building relationships among students and teachers.
Those are all such important topics right now, especially with remote learning and getting ready to go back to the classroom, however that may be in the fall. So I'm really excited for our conversation today. Sean, one thing that has become a really big topic in education is video conferencing and using video conferencing tools to conduct classes or kind of create creative strategies for holding class time, office hours, even collaboration between technology teams and administrators. Could you talk a little bit about how you have used video tools like maybe Zoom in your school to promote critical thinking and also just for effective class management, things like that?
Absolutely. Yes, we have had a bit of an interesting journey regarding video conferencing. We were concerned when the pandemic caused us all to initiate remote learning at the end of last school year, because we were concerned about security and making sure that students were safe in an online environment. Also, we teach middle schoolers, so we wanted to make sure that we were promoting the best learning environment possible for our students, and we were protecting their instructional and emotional safety in a remote learning environment. What we found was Zoom as a firm has been pretty responsive to the different needs of schools. They granted us advanced accounts free of charge, or I guess it wasn't really an advanced full account, but we were able to have classroom sessions or sessions among colleagues for longer than a certain period of time. And so we were able to experiment a lot with Zoom. And what we found in late spring, early summer was that the firm was pretty responsive to our needs and allowed us to use different aspects and different attributes of their account to make sure that when someone joined our conversation, they were first brought into a waiting room. And so we could make sure that they were who we wanted them to be, and the students that were in our waiting room or the colleagues that were in our waiting room were then invited to join the meeting session. I know there's a lot of talk about safety and security, but what I have found is through the use of waiting rooms and also through the use of good judgment and solid teaching strategies, both in a professional development session among colleagues and also in a teaching session, I have found that Zoom is pretty effective, and it's pretty exciting to see a company step up to the plate and really offer a quality product for our students and for us as educators. As a district, we are planning to use Zoom for our classrooms. Every teacher has their own account. It's linked to our professional Google accounts. What's neat about that is our Zoom accounts that are linked to our professional emails may be separate from our personal accounts, which we might be using for other reasons, but it allows us to separate our professional use of the product from our personal use of the product. Similarly, we are using personal meeting room links. And so one of the things that we're exploring is the ability to use mail merge in Microsoft products to create a schedule that includes hyperlinks. So if a student knows that they have English in the morning, or if they have English during period 1, they would click on that link and it would take them directly to their English teacher's meeting room. Similarly, we might be using maybe a Google document or a document in our learning management system to provide an open schedule where we have teacher meeting rooms. Because of the security of those rooms and the privacy of the teachers, we didn't want to set it up so that teachers would set up their own personal meetings over and over and over again. Rather, having these single links to a specific room would allow teachers the privacy of being able to set up their own meetings in other spaces or in other locations to meet with colleagues or to meet with parents, and then that meeting room would be reserved for classroom time. Once the students are in the classrooms, or once the teacher has begun instruction, we are using the breakout rooms as a classroom management piece. One thing, if a student's having difficulty or is in need of redirection, either for academic purposes or for engagement purposes, we might move them into a breakout room by themselves, and then the teacher can work with them individually, and then be flipping from the breakup room where one person is located and the larger room. We discussed the idea of possibly having multiple breakout rooms where you have 3 or 4 students in a breakout room. The difficulty with that, though, is if you have a group of students working in a group in a virtual environment where there is no teacher present because the teacher might be in one of the other rooms, that can be a potential for an unsafe situation, or at least an unmoderated situation. And so one of the things that we've talked about is, rather than doing that, having something where students can work in groups through a Google Suite product or through another product, but maintain themselves within the Zoom environment. So everyone's in the same Zoom room, as it were, but working in groups using a third party. Similarly, if we're using the learning management system, we can use that to promote group work as well. The other way that we might use Zoom to promote critical thinking specifically is we can institute polls and whiteboards within the Zoom, and then we can provide instruction as we would in a normal classroom, and then students would have the ability to respond either through a chat or through the third-party vendor. And the nice thing about it is it gives us a chance to replicate that classroom environment while maintaining safety and security. One of the things that we're looking at in terms of professional development, and actually I just got to do it for the first time earlier this week, was using breakout rooms more freely because I'm working among adults, has been wonderful. It really gives me an opportunity to promote that critical engagement among small groups and have those small group discussions to really replicate that professional development or training experience. So although it may be a little tricky when you're dealing with young people, I firmly believe that the use of the different resources available to us in these types of web conferencing tools gives us an opportunity to promote that extra learning space while not losing any of the mechanics of the classroom that we would normally have in a more traditional setting.
I love those creative ideas for using Zoom. We at Dyknow obviously use Zoom in our company for meetings, things like that. I also use Zoom to host our conferences, and we're using Zoom right now to record this video. But I think going that step further and using those personal meeting rooms and using the breakout rooms is a really great way to promote engagement and really replicate that classroom setting when students and teachers can't really be in the same place.
Yeah,
So
one of the things I was thinking, I think it's very important that we have norms set ahead of time, and we have a set of norms that have been pretty consistent for departments or for building-wide use. And I think even more than normal, because we are not physically with the students, the use of norms or the use of those common expectations is essential. That way students know ahead of time how to act, what's going to happen to protect their safety should an occurrence arise, and then families are on board as well, because overall, if a student is at home, it is the onus of the student's family to help to promote their safe and engaged classroom.
Definitely removing those variable factors to really maintain, consistent instruction, make sure everyone is on the same page. I think that's so important during this time. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for being with us today to talk about Zoom and how you're using Zoom. I hope that everyone watching gets some great tactics from this and can implement them in their classrooms in the fall.
Thanks.